December 19, 1944, 7:30 a.m. Luxembourg City. The wind cuts through stone corridors and rattles windowpanes like distant gunfire. Inside a requisitioned schoolhouse, boots scrape across tile floors slick with tracked in snow. Maps cover the walls, red and blue grease pencil lines clawing across the Ardennes like open wounds. You can almost smell the cold metal of fear. German artillery has been hammering the front for 4 days now. The Battle of the Bulge is no rumor anymore, it's a rupture. Entire American regiments have vanished into the forests. Bastogne is surrounded. Snow chokes the roads. The sky is a solid gray lid grounding Allied air power. For the first time in years, the German army has seized the initiative in the west. And across the room, standing rigid before Supreme Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower, is a man who doesn't look surprised at all. General George S. Patton. He wears his helmet indoors as always. His jaw is set. His eyes are alert, almost impatient. While other commanders argue timelines and contingencies, Patton is already somewhere else, mentally racing along frozen roads, counting divisions, calculating fuel. Eisenhower speaks first. His voice is calm, but the room knows the truth. This is a crisis meeting. "Gentlemen," he says, "the enemy has broken through. We need an immediate counterattack from the south. How soon can you attack?" There's a pause, a long one. Patton doesn't look down at his notes, he doesn't consult his staff, he doesn't hesitate. 3 days, he says. The room freezes. 3 days in winter, with snow-clogged roads, with an entire army facing east that would have to pivot north, hundreds of miles of men, tanks, trucks, artillery, fuel, rations, not a corps, not a division. An entire army. Some officers glance at Eisenhower expecting him to shut it down. Others stare at Patton as if he's just spoken in another language. This isn't optimism, it sounds like insanity. But Eisenhower doesn't laugh. He studies Patton's face. He sees something unsettling there, not bravado, not desperation, but certainty, the kind that makes you uneasy. "George," Eisenhower says slowly, "you really mean that?" Patton nods, "Yes, sir." What Eisenhower does know, what almost no one in that room knows, is that Patton has been preparing for this moment for weeks. While the German High Command was planning its last great gamble in the Ardennes, Patton was doing something that looked pointless to everyone else. He had ordered his staff to quietly draft contingency plans, detailed, road-by-road movement orders for a sudden northward turn. Just in case. Now, as the meeting breaks, Patton strides out into the cold, already issuing commands. His chief of staff, Major General Hobart Gay, falls in step beside him. "Alert the Third Army," Patton snaps, "we're turning north." Gay blinks, "All units, sir." "All units." Outside, engines roar to life, runners sprint, radios crackle. Somewhere down the line, a tank commander wipes frost from his periscope and hears the order that makes no sense at all. "Change direction, now." Within hours, the U.S. Third Army, over 250,000 men, thousands of vehicles, begins one of the most audacious maneuvers of the entire war. Columns that were facing east toward Germany are ordered to swing 90 degrees, threading through icy mountain roads barely wide enough for a single truck. Snowstorms reduce visibility to yards, bridges creak under the weight of armor, traffic jams stretch for miles. Military police stand in intersections all night waving glowing batons, forcing order onto chaos. And yet it works. Patton drives his staff mercilessly. No excuses, no delays. Units that break down are shoved aside. Those that run out of fuel are resupplied first. Engineers work through the night repairing roads under blackout conditions. Chaplains hold services in ditches. Medics treat frostbite by flashlight. Men march until their feet bleed. Meanwhile, miles away, German intelligence officers are studying intercepted radio traffic. They see fragments, reports of American units moving north, supply dumps shifting, command posts relocating. The data doesn't add up. At a Wehrmacht headquarters, an officer shakes his head and taps the map. "Impossible," he mutters. "An army cannot do this in winter, not this fast." They assume the Americans are bluffing, or exaggerating, or that it's a limited movement, maybe a single corps, maybe two. Weeks, they think, at least weeks. They have no idea that Patton's lead elements are already fighting their way through snowdrifts, engines screaming, headlights off, pushing toward Bastogne with a violence that seems almost personal. On December 22nd, the first shells from Patton's artillery crash into German positions on the southern flank. Panzer crews scramble. Staff officers stare at their maps in disbelief. The Americans are here. Already. What German commanders are about to realize too late is that this wasn't improvisation. It was preparation masquerading as madness. And the full weight of that realization is about to hit them like a steel fist from the south. The snow never stops falling. It coats the Ardennes in a blinding white that swallows sound and distance, turning forests into endless corridors of shadows. For German soldiers dug into foxholes near Bastogne, the world has shrunk to the width of a rifle barrel and the ache in their fingers. They are told the Americans are trapped. They believe it. South of them, miles away, General Hasso von Manteuffel's 5th Panzer Army is pushing hard, convinced that the U.S. forces in the Bulge are isolated, exhausted, and finished. Fuel is scarce, but morale briefly is high. The plan is simple: hold the shoulders of the Bulge, crush Bastogne, then drive west. No one expects danger from the south. Inside a candlelit command post, a German intelligence officer flips through reports, frowning. American radio traffic is increasing. Too much movement, too many unit designations. Third Army, that can't be right. The Third Army is facing east. Everyone knows that. He files the report anyway. By December 21st, Patton's columns are grinding forward without pause. Tanks crawl through villages so narrow that stone walls scrape paint from their sides. Drivers sleep at the wheel for minutes at a time, jolting awake when the man in front brakes. Officers shout until their voices crack. Orders are simple and brutal. Keep moving. Patton himself roams the roads in his command car, helmet pulled low, pistols on his hips. When traffic snarls, he jumps out and starts directing vehicles by hand, cursing, threatening court-martials, promising medals, whatever it takes. You don't know what tired is, he growls at a stalled convoy, until you've been dead for 10 years. To the men, it feels like being dragged forward by sheer willpower. Artillery units unlimber, fire a few ranging shots, then limber up again and move on. Engineers blast ice from roads. Signal crews string wire through frozen trees, everywhere the same rhythm. Stop, fight, move. On the morning of December 22nd, the weather breaks. The gray ceiling lifts, the sky clears into a hard, brilliant blue. And with it comes the sound the Germans have been dreading: engines overhead. Allied fighter-bombers swarm the roads, strafing supply columns, bombing bridges, tearing open German rear areas already stretched to the limit. For Patton, it's the signal to strike. The Third Army slams into the southern flank with shocking force. Sherman tanks burst through tree lines, guns flashing. Infantry pour out behind them, boots crunching in the snow, rifles up. German outposts crumble almost immediately, their defenders stunned to see Americans where there should be none. At one command post, a German major stares at a situation map as a runner stumbles in, breathless. American armor, the runner gasps, from the south. The major laughs, then he sees the major's face. The laughter stops. Reports flood in, entire battalions overrun, communications cut, supply dumps burning, the southern flank, assumed secure, is folding. Patton has done more than arrive early, he has arrived everywhere. German staff officers begin to understand the scale of the disaster. This isn't a probing attack, it's a full commitment, the kind of movement their own doctrine says should take weeks of preparation. But Patton has done it in days. At Bastogne, surrounded American paratroopers of the 101st Airborne hear the distant thunder of artillery from the south. At first, it's just a rumor, then the ground shakes, then German shelling slackens. Something is happening. For the German high command, the realization comes like a physical blow. The timetable is broken. The Americans are not reacting, they are counterattacking decisively with an army that should not even be in position. Hitler demands explanations, his generals offer none that satisfy him. How did Patton turn an entire army in winter, under pressure, faster than German planners thought physically possible? The answer terrifies them, because it means the assumptions underpinning the entire offensive are wrong. And now, with fuel running low and American armor clawing north, the German gamble is beginning to unravel. But Patton isn't slowing down. He has only one objective in mind: break through to Bastogne. And he intends to do it at any cost. The road to Bastogne is a graveyard of machines. Burned-out half-tracks slump in ditches like dead animals. Frozen bodies lie half-buried in snow, uniforms stiff, faces locked in surprise. The smell of cordite hangs in the air, sharp and metallic, carried by a wind that never seems to rest. For German commanders along the southern flank, the truth is no longer abstract. It is rolling toward them on steel tracks. On December 23, Patton's spearheads collide head-on with elements of the German Panzer-Lehr Division, one of the most experienced formations in the Wehrmacht. These are not rear area troops. These are veterans who fought in Normandy, men who know how Americans operate. And yet even they are caught off balance. The Americans attack aggressively, almost recklessly. Artillery fires with brutal precision, creeping barrages walking forward through the trees. Sherman tanks advance in close coordination with infantry, exploiting every gap, every hesitation. When German armor counterattacks, it is met not with caution but with overwhelming firepower. A German battalion commander watches through binoculars as wave after wave of American vehicles pour into the fight. His adjutant shakes his head. "Where are they getting all this fuel?" he asks quietly. There is no answer. In a command dugout miles to the rear, a senior German intelligence officer spreads out intercepts and situation reports. The conclusion is unavoidable now. The Third Army has redeployed almost in its entirety. Not in weeks. In days. He writes a single word in the margin of his report: unglaublich, unbelievable. For years, German operational planning had rested on assumptions, hard mathematical truths about how long armies take to move. Those assumptions had shaped the Ardennes offensive itself. The Americans, they believed, were slow, methodical, dependent on massive logistics and cautious commanders. Patton has just shattered that illusion. This is not speed born of desperation. This is speed born of preparation, discipline, and ruthless command. Every staff drill Patton had forced on his officers, every rehearsal mocked as pointless, has paid off in this moment. And now German units are paying the price. South of Bastogne, Patton's forces fight through village after village, Assenois, Chaumont, Marvy, names that mean little on a map but everything to the men dying in the snow. Each crossroads is contested. Each hedgerow hides a machine gun. Progress is measured in yards. Still, the advance continues. At Bastogne itself, the situation inside the encirclement is desperate. The 101st Airborne is low on ammunition, food, and medical supplies. Wounded men lie in makeshift aid stations, blankets frozen stiff. German loudspeakers call for surrender. The American response, nuts, has already become legend. But even legends have limits. Then on December 26th, the sound changes. Artillery from the south grows louder, closer, a different rhythm, different calibers. At 4:50 p.m., a Sherman tank from the 4th Armored Division breaks through German lines at Assenois. Infantry follow, firing as they run. A lieutenant climbs onto the tank, waving frantically toward Bastogne. The siege is broken. Inside German headquarters, the news lands like a death sentence. The Bulge has been pierced. The southern shoulder is collapsing. Fuel shortages are now catastrophic. Units are ordered to pull back, but the roads are already clogged under constant air attack. German commanders finally grasp the full meaning of Patton's maneuver. He didn't just save Bastogne. He destroyed the timetable of the entire offensive. What was meant to be a swift, decisive blow has become a slow hemorrhage of men and machines, and the Allies, once on the defensive, are now closing the trap. For Patton, there is no celebration. He is already pressing forward, demanding more, pushing harder. To him, Bastogne was not the end. It was the beginning of the counterstroke. And the Germans, exhausted and exposed, are about to learn just how relentless that counterstroke will be. The snow begins to melt. By early January 1945, the Ardennes is no longer a frozen maze but a churned wasteland of mud, wreckage, and exhaustion. Roads once choked with ice are now rivers of brown sludge, sucking boots and tracks downward with every step forward or backward. For the German army, there is only backward. Orders arrive late and contradict each other. Units that were once sharp and disciplined now stumble west in fragments, low on fuel, low on ammunition, low on hope. Tanks are abandoned not because they're destroyed but because there's nothing left to put in their fuel tanks. American fighter bombers hunt them relentlessly, prowling the roads like hawks. A single engine overhead can send entire columns scattering into ditches. The offensive that was supposed to change the course of the war has become a fight for survival. Inside Allied headquarters, the mood has shifted completely. Patton's gamble, because that's what it looked like at first, has paid off beyond expectation. The Third Army continues to push north and east, squeezing the Bulge from below while Montgomery's forces press from the north. The German salient begins to collapse inward like a punctured lung. Eisenhower watches the situation maps in silence. Only now does the full weight of what Patton accomplished begin to sink in. No other Allied commander had believed such a maneuver was possible. Not in winter, not under pressure, not with an enemy offensive already in motion. Military textbooks said it couldn't be done. Patton did it anyway. German post-action reports, written in bitter, precise language, struggle to explain what happened. They speak of unexpected American mobility and operational speed beyond calculation. Intelligence officers admit that their estimates were wrong, fatally wrong. One German general sums it up bluntly in his diary: "We planned on the enemy's slowness, instead we met his fastest man." The realization is devastating. The Ardennes offensive was built on time, on the belief that the Allies would need weeks to react. Patton stole that time away, hour by hour, mile by mile. And once it was gone, there was no getting it back. For the American soldiers who fought their way through the snow, the victory is quieter, more personal. They remember frozen nights, screaming engines, the shock on German faces when Americans appeared where they shouldn't be. They remember Patton's voice crackling over the radio, relentless, demanding, urging them forward. To many of them, it felt like being carried along by a force larger than any one man. But the war is not over. As January turns to February, the Western Front stabilizes again, this time with the Germans on the defensive for good. The road to the Rhine lies open. The final invasion of Germany is only weeks away. And in German headquarters, planners begin rewriting their assumptions. Never again, they vow, underestimate American speed. Never again assume Patton will move the way others do. Because in the Ardennes, in the worst winter Europe had seen in decades, George S. Patton proved something that would echo through military history. An army led with preparation and ruthless clarity could move faster than anyone believed possible. And when it did, entire strategies could collapse overnight. And